Howdy, folks. If you're coming back after we just went through our CPU video talking about how to do some CPUs and some performance. But this video is going to be about sandboxing and about Hyper-V, at least starting to set that up. Everybody's going to have you download VirtualBox. That's not a bad thing. You can totally use the other VM tools that are out there, VMware, VirtualBox. However, if let's go to Kali to kind of give you an idea. If we're going to go to Kali Linux, because we're going to be talking about hacking, and then Kali comes into it no matter what. Regardless of why you're downloading Kali. Typically, you're downloading Kali because Kali has all the tools already pre-built into it. You can easily take the tools that are in Kali and install them in your current distribution. That's not that big of a deal. I've been playing around with Kali since before it was called Kali. It used to be called Backtrack. Backtrack 1, Backtrack 2, Backtrack 3, and then eventually it became Kali, and it has now turned into an amazing platform of all sorts of stuff. The ins and outs in all sorts of manner. But we're here to talk about virtual machines. So we've got virtual machines. So you can see we've got VMware, VirtualBox, Hyper-V, and QEMU. These are the ones that are at least the most supported and most recognized here inside, at least as far as Kali's concerned, right? There might be others. Sure, you've got Docker containers, and you've got all sorts of other setups. You could do all sorts of ways where you had different machines doing different things, but these are the four that are the most common and you're going to run into. Now, why am I going to go through Hyper-V? Well, one, because Hyper-V is what you're going to run into as a technician. You're going to run into VMware or you're going to run into Hyper-V. You're not going to run into VirtualBox in a professional environment. Full stop. You know how many times I found VirtualBox in a customer environment that I've adopted or that I set up? The answer is 0. VMware? Yeah, I run across VMware all the time, especially older infrastructure. They use VMware. Hyper-V is the up-and-comer. Hyper-V is nearly everywhere. And most importantly, it allows you to start to understand about virtualization without having to swap to another operating system. You're learning something that's built into Windows for Windows. It's pretty simple. So let's go install Sandboxing and Hyper-V. And how do we do that? Well, we're just going to go down to search and we're going to type Sandbox. And as I start to type Sandbox, it says, hey, you want to turn some Windows features on or off? Sure, let's turn some Windows features on or off. And when we go down through this list, there's a couple things you need to understand. Hyper-V and Sandbox use processor virtualization. The processor virtualization needs to be turned on. That's in the BIOS. Now, I don't know if it's turned on in this machine. We're going to find out real fast because it'll tell us. So these are all the things that can be turned on or off, and you might care about these. These are valuable things to know that they exist. You just have to turn them on. So let's go down and we're going to look for Windows Sandbox. And here we are. We're going to hit OK. I'm going to hit yes, searching for required files. We'll install Hyper-V after I show you the Sandbox once it's installed. Windows needs to reboot. Well, let's not restart. Don't restart. That way I can stop the video and then resume it after the restart. We finished rebooting. Let's go back to trying to load Sandbox and go back to our turn Windows features on or off. Let's make sure it got loaded up. And we have Windows Sandbox. So this is required for running Sandbox scenarios. Let's go take a look and see if we have it installed. All apps. Windows. Sandbox might require Hyper-V to install separately. So let's go install Hyper-V. Hyper-V will tell us if we actually have everything installed that we need because the virtualization component. So let's go here. Well, it looks like we can install everything because normally this will be grayed out if you don't have the right processor settings, which is to have your virtualization configured. Here we are. It's also important to note that you can only do these in Windows 10 and 11, and that professional, Windows 10, Windows 11, professional. These are supported on the desktop. You don't need to go install a whole new level of operating system, and you can upgrade Windows 10 and Windows 11 natively. You can just upgrade from a home version to a pro version by just adding a key and rebooting. So you don't need to go too far. Looks like we're going to have to reboot again. The joys of its self-installation and setting things up. So we're back after our second reboot, installing Hyper-V and Sandbox. And after I rebooted that time, there was a bunch of Windows updates that were happening in the background. So maybe it was required to install Hyper-V and Windows Sandbox simultaneously. I'm not sure. But we now have Windows Sandbox. So let's go put this on the taskbar because we want that there. And then let's go look up Hyper-V because we got the same thing that we want to do there. Hyper-V. And now you see we have Hyper-V loaded. Let's pin that to the taskbar. Let's start with Sandbox. So we'll open up the Microsoft Sandbox. And this is effectively a snap, quick, dirty virtual machine that you can go do Windows stuff in. If you're running Windows 11, it's going to be a Windows 11 Sandbox. And if you run Windows 10, that's going to be a Windows 10 Sandbox. So you can see there's practically nothing here. It's very minimal. It's sharing your processor. It's splitting up some of your memory. It's got a default drive of some stuff here. Let's see. I think it's probably going to be an 8 gig, 4 gig. So it's assigned 4 gigs of memory. It's not going to do a lot, but it's good for clicking on shady links or going to shady places. If you're like, hey, I got a shady link, I want to go to a shady link, shady URL, right? You need to click on something. You need to know where it's going. You want to know why it's a bad site. Somebody sent you something. You want to go investigate it. This is a great place to go. But remember, everything that you do here is gone the moment you're done and you close this thing down. So let's, as an example, I'm going to install some Ninite stuff. I'm going to just have some programs installed here. Right, really clear. Get your Ninite. Going to install it. Maybe I shouldn't have installed all these, but this is a great example of what I'm talking about, right? We're downloading Firefox, just like we were setting up a machine over here. We're installing all this stuff, installing, waiting to install, downloading, waiting to install. Firefox is probably going to take the longest. Again, this has only got 4 gigs of RAM at this point, even though it's using the shared processor. I don't know how many cores of that shared processor. Let's go. Can we go look? Let's go look. Let's do a Control-Shift-Escape, and that will pull up the inside the machine. What kind of setups we've got here. So let's look through the. Looks like we've got. Well, did they assign all 16 virtual processors? Now that we're in the same machine, I'm going to do the same command. That's Control-Shift-Escape to pull this up from the keystroke. And so here's your difference in performance. 1 socket, 8 cores. There's no cores listed here. 16 logical processors. These are 16 virtual processors. And you can see that the speed is locked at 1.8, whereas the speed over here seems to fluctuate a little bit. Uptime, since I rebooted the computer and since this computer came up, you can also see processes running, etc., etc. So this is gives you a good understanding of the state. Here we are. We've got everything installed. We hit Chrome. We can open Chrome up. We can go to the internet. We can surf the web. Don't sign in. Just skip. Get me to the web. Got it. And then I'm going to go to CPU Benchmark, right? Such a great website. I want to go to it even inside my virtual machine. So now that we're here, but now I'm done. Like I've gone to the shady link. I've shut everything down, and I hit close, and you get this error. Hey, are you sure you want to close the Windows Sandbox? Once the Windows Sandbox is closed, all of the content will be discarded and permanently lost. Okay. Yeah, it's gone. Poof. Now, if I restart the Sandbox, even though it was just such a quick second of difference, I had the Sandbox hasn't been off for 15 seconds, well, maybe 20 seconds. And you can already see all those applications that I installed are gone. There's nothing in the downloads folder. Everything I've done is isolated. This is its own box. But Hyper-V is going to let us break out of that and have our own virtual machines that we're going to set up. And it's really easy to configure a lot of those things. So let's go through and set up a virtual machine or two, and then on to more of the courses after I destroy this machine. Now we're moving on to the hypervisor. So we've got Hyper-V here. We've got some settings. This is the standard Microsoft Management Console, allowing us to connect to other machines. But this is the machine. This is our host name here. And you can see some basic states. Name. We're going to go over those after we start creating. So I'm going to create. I'm going to do a quick create. I'm going to boot. Let's find out the one that's got the smallest amount of storage. This one is 1.97 gig. Let's go with that. Default switch, create virtual machine. And this is going to download. I've upgraded my internet connection since we set other things up. And so I'm no longer on the Wi-Fi. That way this will download and this process will not take as long. It'll download the whole image. Then it will extract it. Then it will set some things up. And we will then see if the quick create is actually functional at all. Here we are extracting the disk from the image archive. And then we're going to look at these settings. Let's edit some settings here. I want to make sure that this has enough memory to boot up without having too much of an issue. So let's give it a 8192. Apply that. Give it 8 gigs. Dynamic memory is great. That gives it the ability to downsize and upsize. So if you uncheck this, it would always have 8. And dynamic memory gives it other options and functionality. And then you get your memory. This is all the settings we're gonna. We'll go over these settings after this boots up and starts. So we're connecting to it. Let's edit those settings again. Make sure. All right, great. Cancel. And let's hit start. Start the machine. You can see a little snapshot of it down here. As that updates, it will update slowly on that machine. So let's connect to it. We see we've got an icon, and poof, there we go. We have the starting of an Ubuntu 2020, sorry, 2004 long-term support version being set up on this computer. Right, it's going to go through the setup just like any other machine if we were to install this physically. Next. It's where I am. What's your name? Richard. And it can tell it's in a virtual machine. So username is Richard, and I'm going to choose my super password of password. And it tells us, hey, that's a weak password. You shouldn't use that. And they're right. I shouldn't use that. But we're going to log in automatically. We're going to do even poorest cybersecurity choices here as we do these things. But this is just for YouTube on an isolated computer in an isolated network. Configuring keyboard, go through all the steps. And I mean, we might not edit the time out of this at all because it's literally this quick to create a VM. Now, that's deterministic on your performance. That's deterministic on how much memory you have, on how much processing power you have, on a whole bunch of things. But this is from start to finish, we have downloaded an entire operating system and installed it and configured it, and it is going to boot up. And we can have a permanent machine that we could do functional internet tests on, or go to shady websites, or play with Linux, just like we're going to have a Kali box, right? People talk about putting Kali in a VM. Well, we're going to have Kali in a Hyper-V. It's going to be really easy to do because they give us the Hyper-V image. And that machine is probably booting or crashing. Who knows? Let's go back to Kali, right? We're going to have a Kali VM from Hyper-V. We're literally just going to be able to download it, right? Click the link and download. Oh, and there it goes. It's starting to download. We'll just let that download in the background. Right? Like, oh, here we are. We're on our Ubuntu box. We're going to keep this here. We're going to say connect and cancel, exit. Show options. And there we go. We are now in. I forgot that sometimes that x86, X11 interface can be a little weird. So we're just going to skip this. Next, 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 and done. We now have internet on a virtual machine that we've downloaded and set it up on Hyper-V. There's a new version. Do we want to upgrade? No, I don't want to upgrade. I've declined the upgrade. We'll worry about that later. Maybe we'll have an upgrade session. This isn't going to be a Linux tutorial program. That's a totally different level of that's a different thing of IT support altogether. It'd be more beneficial for me to teach Mac IT professional training. You'll get into Linux whether you like it or not in the cybersecurity portion. That's when you kind of quickly learn that most of the internet runs on Linux whether you like it or not. But we can't change a lot of these settings, or we shouldn't change a lot of these settings while the machine is running. So let's shut it down. Boop, power on, power off, power off, power off. Got to hit power off a couple times, right? So now let's go through some of the stuff that we've got here. So we've got the settings of the machine. We've got that's the EFI file, UEFI, right? Got our hard drive, which we can go find. You can see where that is, right? So this is the file path. That is your virtual hard disk. And usually I think the X stands for extended. We've got virtual boot disabled. Why would we have virtual boot disabled? Because this is a VM. This is where you get into your secure boots and your trusted platform module. And we'll talk about TPMs and those things later on. Trust me, you can't get around it. How many processors we're assigning to this machine? SCSI lets us add more drives. SCSI controller stands for Small Computer System Interface. It's an old standard, but it's kind of integrated in the back end in nearly every virtual machine setup. You can see the hard drive itself here, exactly show where it is. Tell that it's on a SCSI controller and what the location on the SCSI controller is. You can see we've got lots of locations, lots of spots for drives. And then we've got our network adapter. And our network adapter tells us what default switch we're using, or at least what virtual switch we're using. In this case, we are using the default switch. We can then go over to the virtual switch manager and take a look at what options we have. We could add more switches, and we could determine what type of switches we want those to be. If we want it external, and it tells us, creates a machine that binds a physical network address to the virtual machine so it can access the physical network. An internal, this creates a virtual switch that can only be used with virtual machines that run on this computer, between the virtual machines and the physical computer. And then private, and that means that it is a VM that runs only on this machine and has pretty much no internet connection. This default switch gives you some ideas. This is where things can start to get a little weird, right? If you have multiple network card interfaces, you need to be careful about what network card interfaces you have. So we've got our default switch. We've got our extensions. You need to be careful where your default switch is configured to, because it's going to be configured to an Ethernet controller. It's going to be configured to an interface. And what you have these set up as for network address translation, things we'll get into networking eventually. And we will have those conversations to try and explain all this stuff. This is just kind of giving you a gloss over of a lot of it. So we've downloaded Sandbox, we've downloaded Hyper-V, we've configured them both. We've downloaded a VM, a virtual machine. We've started it from scratch. We've gone the whole way. We have a virtual machine. We know what a Sandbox does, all of those things. It is a great, great time. And thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.